She came from nowhere. Case number 0 E-1, Secret Agents, by Caleb Marazi. For Emily, whenever I may find her. The Orders of Erasure, a case concerning the Central Intelligence Bureau's plot to eliminate Universe Null Sum 1 from the multiverse without just cause or provocation. Forewarned. This story is set in an ever-expanding multiverse about people whose lives are entangled with others in ways that are larger than they can possibly understand. The main character is a being that is interwoven through everything. It can be a little overwhelming. Footnotes have been included to help you get your bearings in this bizarre universe. Chapter 1. From a Certain Perspective. Part 1. Certain Perspectives. Certain, an agent of the Central Intelligence Bureau, an agency tasked with maintaining order in the multiverse, enters the director's office. We found the source of all chaos. Do you want us to erasure it? Once we breach its timeline, the CIB, shorthand for entering one particular version of reality, it'll sense us. I suggest we move quickly. It makes reality in its sleep. If it wakes, it could make it so we never arrive, or use us as pawns. We must attack while it's dreaming. We can put an end to all suffering it causes in every world. The agent gestures to the microcosms Juan Serra examines with an electroscope. No matter what variables Rayon changes, the creature finds a way to corrupt them. Captain Rayon, an alien, nods. I recommend using your best agent, one experienced in removing gods, Certain says, knowing that he was the obvious choice. We'll replace the creature with one who aligns more closely with our agenda. I don't want a multidimensional conflict over this kid, the director says, moving slowly to his desk to see the files. Serra breathes heavily. Good work, but you're not the right man for this mission. Creatures this powerful have allies. Bring it in. We'll see if we can become one. Having a force of that magnitude would be an asset. It wouldn't be the first god we've encountered out here, would it? Serra smiles wryly. No, I'll handpick a few agents and bring it in unharmed. We'll leverage its power by any means necessary. Part 2. Skill versus talent. With brilliant minds at their disposal, the CIB had created devices like the Glass Cube, which alters local reality to the wielder's advantage. However, it took Clio's supercomputers to get the changes they wanted. This creature does it just by thinking, even in its sleep, Juan muses. Through an electroscope, the director sees he needs to deal with Chirome's rising emperor. The man was getting close to discovering the multiverse, and his ambition made him dangerous. The director would worry less as an ally of the creature. They'd rewrite reality, like using Rayon's controls. Serra wasn't hurt that his worlds kept getting corrupted. It was the same with every timeline they had ever found. Not one of them could be considered good. Destruction served its purpose, though, leeching energies from dying individuals into all nearby incarnations that to continue to exist all around them. It doesn't seem like much until you consider every choice you and everyone else is making is just a strand your energy splits into. In a multiverse, energy is never lost, only reassigned. Get your stuff together, Teeth, Griffin says, awaking Dr. Trey. We're going to hunt God. Are we the only two agents at HQ? The buck-toothed woman asks. Why do we only get the hard missions? The doctor was going to take the mission and they both knew it. She just wanted to bellyache first. Her homeworld of Lunacar only had doorways which led into hell worlds. When agents recruited her, she was enslaved to a Duke on Yama, the population forever dying from starvation and dehydration all around her. fighting for both. She became a top agent to help save the others from experiencing what she did. She knew that hell worlds only spread if they weren't stopped. The agents examine the dossier. Sure, it's fine now, Teeth says, but it can't fall into the wrong hands. An alarm sounds in Sura's office. The Chiroman Emperor was accelerating the director's timetable. One didn't want to wait. Miletus Panem had been made to dominate. It was going to be a direct conflict, unfortunately. Shame. He didn't enjoy destroying his creations. Sura shrugs. He had hoped to have tested the creature against the Emperor, but there was chaos everywhere in the multiverse. There'd be plenty of opportunities to see the creature's power. Part 3. The Disgruntled Agent. Griffin's last mission was on QB1, a microcosm. He didn't approve of the mission, but he did it, planting a Furbtech as seed for a planet-wide mind link. He posed as a citizen trying to find a home for the poor thing. Fivacon, a QB1 native, couldn't resist and adopted the creature instead of going to her morning class. Griffin knew that Cleo targeted her as the individual who had the biggest impact on future history, but he didn't see it. The Furbtech mentally bonded with her and it replicated in the night. Fivacon gave the new one to a classmate, and they became friends. Lysander, Griffin's homeworld, had a Cleo running it. It felt they needed drama to live, so it made them fight each other. The code made them forget the simulation, but Griffin hacked it and woke up, free, in the morgue, vowing to never give up control. Ironically, the Cleo had suggested QB1's least noticeable resident. The college student didn't like to socialize before her Furbtech arrived. For her, having an adorable pet who understood her and made her new friends was the best thing that could have ever happened to her. She knew what they needed, and was able to be that for them, and them for her. When Griffin reported back to the director, years had passed on QB1, and the Furbtech had spread across the planet. The agent didn't approve, but he respected its effectiveness. He didn't say anything, and he was promoted. Part 4. The Submissive God. Certain was exactly the type of agent the Bureau wanted. The Illic had psychic camouflage, making his appearance change imperceptibly when looked at, so almost instantly he faded from memory. Useful on Savania, an all-animal world. His partner, Terence Gottlieb, a tall, thin man with large ears and nose who manipulated subatomic particles, continually had to fake his death. When they had located the planet's god, they called in Dr. Sarah K. Klee, the director's assistant, in order to establish a worldwide government. She brought another agent, Griffin Ibernus, who had zero powers but was skilled at cleodynamic calculations using an app they called the Rug. At the academy, they learned it often took all different types of agents to accomplish their covert missions. About time, certain snaps. Waiting, he had phased between many timelines, dying in each one. No one knew about his ability. It let him survive. The Dingo God was shorter than she had expected, but Sarah Kay knew creatures of great power often altered their appearance to seem non-threatening. She offered Savania the Caller. This will control the Karn's primal impulses and will allow for lasting peace across your planet, she says. What's the catch? Tetacerini, as the Dingo was called here, asks. Fail to help Central, and it turns off. Tetacerini didn't want to go back to Lunacar, his homeworld. He had escaped and was placed in Savania, magic powers manifesting in the jungle. He was there for decades before the herbs discovered him and begged him for protection against the wild Karns. If the Bureau's technology was as good as he knew it would be, then he could finally relax, letting the two societies, Karns and herbs, merge into one. We want it to be an easy sell, Sarah Kay says, so we've incorporated a global banking system into it. creates a common currency for commerce. When I arrive, the dingo replies, every Urbian city fended for itself, in fear of the Karns. They needed me to make a buffer zone, but insisted I didn't meddle in their politics. He was jealous of their communities, since he was too powerful for friends. I can appreciate that, the assistant director says casually, but no, I'm only asking if you're willing to help. You don't have to. We can always find someone else who will best represent the Bureau's interests here. I'm sure there are a number of Carnian leaders who would jump at the chance to use our technology to further their agenda. We don't care who's in power here, just that they're going to help us. There's a flash, and Certain slumps over, feeling his body die, as he phases into a nearby incarnation, who watches negotiations in a similar room. Griffin shows Sarah Kay the rug in his world book. We want to close the deal or move on, Kay. He may not be our guy. He looks at the other two agents. I've run some preliminary numbers on the contacts you mentioned. How soon can we get there? I guess we'll find someone who is ready to rule the world, Dr. Klee says to the dingo. Have fun fending off the cubs looking to prove themselves. I'm in, Tetraserini says quickly, but I need him. The agent who had established the god's cover. Someone who can reincarnate would be useful. Smirking imperceptibly as the dingo points at Terrence, Certain slowly fades from the god's memory. Tetraserini had no way of knowing how many times the Illic had actually died, demonstrating that he was a fool, easily manipulated by simple tricks. Part 5. A Man with a Mission. Certain was calm outside, but inside he roiled with plans. Now that he'd found the creature, he wanted nothing more than to exterminate it. Beings with too much power were dangerous. They had to be held accountable. That was the problem with these so-called gods. They just did whatever they thought was best, and this creature, she was the worst. They discovered that she was integrated into everything, and she believed herself to be the definition of good. The Illic had died so many times he didn't fear it. Instead, he made immortals examine their mortality. The director and everyone else upstairs was stopping Certain from holding her responsible for everything she does, killing billions of creatures every nanosecond for no real reason. Killing gods was Certain's specialty. They could be difficult to rein in, but every one of them had a weakness. And that's why he knew the creature was the real deal. She came from nowhere, without end or beginning, and always having existed. There's no way to destroy her without destroying everything. The only other agent who knew this truth was Ellen Grobley. He vetted her until her loyalty was his. In private conversations, they couldn't contain their excitement. Killing the creature ended their suffering. But how do you end a being that never began? Certain wanted to catch her sleeping in her homeworld because she would have no other incarnations to flee to. Once she took a body, it would begin fracturing into all of her life choices, making it impossible for them to catch every one. His bosses would love that, Certain thinks sarcastically, since they were trained to use chaos to their advantage. Like their gods, they didn't care who they killed in the process. Defecting from the Bureau wasn't something he wanted, but he would do what he'd do to stop this death cycle. Unknown to Certain, him coming after her was exactly the path she'd hoped he'd take. She was totally complete by herself in the eternal moment, but was alone because there was no one like her. Him coming to unseat her would let her experience it firsthand. She was so excited. She knew every single creature and their parents all the way back to when it begins, but now they would know her too. The Illic agent would set in motion her great lethrolification. Part 6. The Orphan. A while back, Rayon had saw a snarl in the rug and had gotten Griffin deployed to Trenton Brandswank. Soon aliens, who posed as gods, projected in from Furbia to protect them from a mysterious plague that broke out. Griffin was found to be immune and retreated, with a girl who'd lost her parents to the disease. You've never seen this before, the agent says, using a spike glove to unlock the town library's doors. Griffin leads the orphan into a hallway that is lined with doors to the horizon in both directions. The orphan, Connie Tong, powers up her holographic trench coat which mimics her surroundings. Only her voice gives her away as she runs, yelling, "Help! I don't know what he wants from me!" She was gone. Griffin tried to catch her. She was just a kid. The multiverse was dangerous, but that's what he had exposed her to by underestimating her tech. A door opened and closed. He lost her. Gang-scarred KTM members spring from a Capricorn door, arms full of goods, and run toward the agent, a Geminus bounty hunter in pursuit. Griffin unlocks the closest door. It'll have to work. The agent trips over an Alitech sunning itself in a flooded Earth station. Hungry glee fills its beady eyes, toothy snout salivating. "Rayon," Griffin says over his comms, dodging the snapping Alitech. "I'm out in space." "Oh good," the alien says. "There's a 47% chance you'd ended up there. I need you to grab me a couple of things." Part 7. Smash and Grab. Truthfully, Sora admired the Imogen, as the Bureau was calling the creature. They said she was responsible for causing all life and death. Certain had found her by following the data streaming from the Null Sub-1 rift. It's a grag-eat-grag world, and Juan was director because he thrived on tightroping the line between order and chaos. Dr. Trey, a squirrel, as big as a teenager now, storms into the Cleo labs, bristling under her vibroblades. "Griffin, I don't care you're mission chief. I want to get into our transverser and go." Griffin and Terrence didn't look up from the rug data. "Not now, Tease. It's at 85%. We'll be erased. I'm okay if you disappear, but me..." Terrence turns to eat his sandwich. "That'd be worse than dying, I think. Just never having existed. I mean, what happens to you besides the energy transfer? I do whatever I ask so I don't find out. It sounds too painful." "You know, I have Cleo update me daily on every agent's conversations," Sarah Kay says, entering. "Griff, Sura wants a report." "Tell him we're trying to keep existing if that's okay with him," Griffin says, finally turning. He smiles at Dr. Klee, who was adorable when she was trying to be official with him. "Thank you for the allocations," he says. "I was able to get a Dreamwave nullifier, and we'll pin her down with some reality lock beads." He pulls out a multicolored strand. "Remember, Kay? Suddenly we were biologically old enough to drink," he laughs. It was public record, so she let it slide. "They're expensive toys, Ebernus," she says. "Update me when the danger drops below 70%. Certain had found that whenever he died, he followed his energy, getting stronger each time. So he had implanted a suicide device. Knowing that Sarah Kay was listening, Griffin hands DR a hush device. "We used this to sneak into each other's dorms." She rolls her eyes. "We were not a thing at the academy," Sarah Kay says over the comms. Certain activates the isotope releasing device over his heart, even though this was normal for him. This time he was enacting an emergency plan, phasing into a timeline nearer and further out. He dies as Ellen enters his room. She rushes to him horrified as their plans, her world, falls apart. Dalek phases into Sura's office as the director. "But the multiversal corruption is necessary, sir," Captain Rayon says. "All populations collapse at their maximum capacity." "Feel that?" Griffin points to the rug. "We started too soon. Boom. Kills us. Feel it?" He leans in to whisper. "Chief's tip. Notice what you're worrying about when they die and you learn from their mistakes." At her desk, Sarah Kay worries that giving Griffin too much leeway lost her respect. Her choice was run the CIB or Griffin. The director had warned her from his own experiences, "Don't get involved, Kay. You only lose them over and over again. It was practical advice, in theory, but she wanted to know how to stop her heart from aching when a griffin died in the rug. Dr. Trey is suddenly taller, equipped with neutron blasters, and Griffin looks more rugged. She's onto us, Cleo, Agent Aberna says. Increase the temporal dampeners. Emergency clearance H9 Delta M Gamma 7. Pleasantly surprised, Rayon finds he's a sneeze jelly alien in a gel suit that gives him full protection from the environment. More angular now, the director waves the scientist away, turning to the rug from Cleo-made sims of billions of failed missions, many of them seeing the Imogen. The data was way above his security clearance as an Illic, and he was dazzled. Even through the simulation, she took his breath away. The agents couldn't succeed. She was raw power. They speak of her in legends, Griffin narrates the Cleo Sims dramatically. Her golden wings and scales, her teeth, ready to devour the world. He elbows DR. Not us. We'll get her. Look at all our data. Certain worries that Sarah Kay knows he's taken Sura. He'd died many times to learn the signals between master and protege. You see why these suckers are getting whacked, don't you? Griffin points to him and DR getting slaughtered in the rug data. They've got their multi-drones miscalibrated. I wouldn't even kick them on until I was in the caves. I did want to say thank you to Sarah Kay for allowing that into our proposal. Too bad I won't be able to do that in person since we're being sent off to our deaths, but I also want to thank you for... He communicates directly to the squirrel's mind. Whisper comms. Whisper comms are mission only, Sarah Kay says. Whisper comms. Only Agent Trey knew that Sarah Kay had used the whisper comms off mission and knew no one would believe her if she told. That's the 8th time she's joined our conversation, Terrence says, heading for the door. Lock up on the way out, would you? I need to go before I say something that gets me taken upstairs and I come back weird. Agent Abernus had intentionally worn his brand new Infinity Shades to the Cleo Labs, knowing Sarah Kay would check in on them. Weirdly, he requested them, and they had arrived, but they weren't on the official packing list. That meant the assistant director planned on letting him keep them. She saw them and said nothing, which means that he had been right. Pain like nothing Certain had ever felt hit deep within the director's body. He gritted his teeth, hoping for death. The Imogen used death for many reasons. One was to empower the survivors, so she found Certain fascinating. The sheer will he had was selfishly phasing between timelines, using his deaths to strengthen himself. Section 8. Hijinks. Sparrow indulges in the temple of the winged lion, built for and named after the Egyptor. She was adored by her people. There's a rustle in the outer sanctuary that she wanted to ignore but couldn't anymore. She cat stretches and pads to the door. Outside the goddess's chambers, Gertie darts out of the confessional to the exit. The girl leaps over the porch railing into the bushes where Connie waits. Gertie wears the spike glove her friend stole from the alien who took her. That one works too, she says. Sparrow strolls outside. Connie throws her trench coat over them, whispering, "Shoot it." The other girl fires a sonic distorter, making their noise come from the projectile's location. They run, crouched, from the bushes. New Trenton's goddess was amused by their boldness in the face of what she could do. She admired childish pluck, but it was untoward, and she must be punished. Immediately, there are screams of pain. Invisible under Connie's coat, Gertie's face distorts as she tries to hold in another. Sparrow prowling toward them, growling. I know the deep rot hurts, but that's the price for being disobedient, child. Run, Gertie whispers fiercely. I need her to fix me. Take our gear. We'll meet up at the old Jenkins house. She saw the look in Connie's eyes. Her friend, a stranger who had appeared one day in their town and was immune to Sparrow's punishments, was fearless, but not impervious to the lion's claws. No sense we're both in trouble. Section 9. Now lie in it. Sarah Kay spars with Certain in a private gym, talking to the director over comms. I've checked in with all our teams. I assure you, they're also anxious to successfully complete the mission, sir. Remember, the Griffin incarnations are on the case because they only take the most cliodynamic opportunities. The Illic was a challenging fighter since his camouflage changed his perceived size and appearance. She kicked where she thought his head was, and missed. Certain takes advantage of the situation. His flying knee catches her in the crotch, launching them in the air. It was the reason she enjoyed sparring the Illic. He attacked the slightest weakness. Sarah Kay kicks herself into a backflip, controlling her breath, not wanting the director to hear the fight. Wand, remember, I'm your protege because I cliodynamically make the same decisions as you. Although Sarah Kay's father, being a CIB co-founder and the director's good friend, may have helped. Trust their instincts. She tries to land a dropped elbow, but Certain rolls away and she crashes. I'm looking at the rug percentages, Sura says. I want our agents deployed to Null Sub 1. That's an order. The director's tone shakes Dr. Klee. Certain takes advantage and dives for a headlock. Sarah Kay reverses it. She locks her inner elbow under the Illic's chin, choking him as Certain lands body and headshots. He'd rather die than tap out, which is why she sparred him routinely. The day's highlight. Don't play me, old man. I know your secrets. You don't have enough lifeline left to train another protege. Right man, right place, right time, she says to Sura. Bureau policy that you established. Call me back once you get your bearings. The Illic weakens, but won't quit. She had won, but knows Certain would rather die than lose, so she just snaps his neck. End simulation. Wiping sweat from her brow, Sarah Kay gets up, stretching a little before saying, Begin simulation. Immediately she's attacked by another appearance-shifting Illic. While studying cliodynamics don't necessarily tell you the future, it did tell you some very likely outcomes. According to Cleo, Certain was the biggest threat to her existence if he went rogue. So she trained, looking for weaknesses, killing him over and over. If the conflict became real, she would be ready. Section 10. Calling in a favor. Tetracerini's callers caught on once the Karns saw how interconnected banking supercharged the Arabian economy. They wanted it for themselves and were allowed to steal it. They hacked the global network and both sides forgot the dingo. The Eternal One returned once the Savanian banking system was established, looking for a favor. Tetracerini complied, simply glad to see his friend. It wasn't even a huge ask. The assistant director would like it if you helped make Gerald of Mahalek the king over all the Karns, Terrence said. The young lion was an odd choice, a weak cub from a weak tribe, but it worked in his favor. Gerald used his mind rather than his strength. Being overlooked his entire life meant he had no real enemies. Tetracerini had respect for the grit of the young cub. Terrence, Certain says through Sura, tell the dingo I want a Karn squad. Since he had to wait, the Illic decided he might enjoy being director. Sarah Kay had been right to remind him of their code. Right man, right place, right time. The Illic thought a cheetah brigade in Chiron would be the perfect solution. Decimate the Emperor. He would do what the director should have been doing, teaching these people to regard the multiversal entrance as holy, steering clear. He sent the script over to the Emperor's head priest, an embedded CIB operative. Only the monkeys hadn't forgotten Tetracerini. The dingo tried to stop their worship, but eventually he gave in, appearing at their festivals. The high priest wanted him to hear a vision. The Karns would rise when the dingo left the jungle for love. Tetracerini had been captivated by Sarah Kay since his first meeting her, but knew the only time she'd show up is if he failed catastrophically. He still hoped. But Agent Gottlieb said she would be very unhappy with the Dingo, possibly even coming to Savania if he didn't immediately provide the Carnian death squad. Holding lives in his paw was why Tetracerina was trying to get out of the god business. He didn't believe the monkey had a vision, but he knew the message when he heard one. His bosses were warning him. He retreated into the jungle, running from love. The Dingo would get his bosses a Carn squad. He'd almost achieved peace on Savania, a goal he'd been working towards since he had arrived here. He wasn't willing to take it back from the people he cared for. A sacrifice had to be made, a few for the many. They'd disappear and be forgotten in the face of a brand new trade routes forming between communities that had only known death and war. Although Certain enjoyed the rush of death, he relaxed into the director's life. The power he wields over worlds was intoxicating in its own way. And Gerald never forgot who had made him king, so when the Dingo told him what he wanted, the Lion was overjoyed to provide it for him. The god was now rarely seen these days, but he was here, the Lion's guest. The king feasted to celebrate. As the wine flowed, Gerald asked Tetracerina if their mission would be a success, and the Dingo apologized. He said he only did what they told him to do. Terrence shut off the cheetah's collars and Chiron, retreating. No matter how well trained they were, they had no idea what they were facing. The Emperor rose to the challenge, rallying his men to slaughter the squad. He had risen to power from the nameless urchins who had been left in the streets to die. Terrence, Certain says, Asura, go to Savania before coming back to HQ. We need more. Section 11. The Letter of the Law. Microcosms were relatively new inventions, since running tiny universes on hypertime was difficult. So far, they had few policies about them, perfect for Griffin's secret side business. Secrets since Sarah Kay wouldn't approve. In the Clio lab, Agent Abernus discreetly chatted with 5A_K0N, as a college student with the FERBTech was now designated, over subatomic relays. She controlled the mind link now and organized labor for the global economy. Through encoded messages, Griffin gave her access to specs of CIB gear that he knew some hub worlds would love to purchase. He wanted to keep clear of the operation as much as possible. It wasn't technically stealing since the specs never left the director's office. Griffin had to run the operation right on the edge of what was allowable. One mistake, and there would be no him left to change it. The microcosm running on hypertime meant that in the 12 hours the agent had been watching the rug, the QIB-1's mind link turned out several lines of merchandise. It had only been a few weeks local time, but 5A_K0N was still incredibly apologetic. Production will be quicker next time, she says. We had to build infrastructure to mine and convert the resources. The agent had been careful with how it moved. He traded their services for the planet's raw material map and a few openings from their timeline into the multiverse. The gear was locally sourced, if the Cubians sold it too. Section 12. Quaking up. Griffin, the dampeners are at maximum, Certain says to Sura, as a time quake causing everything in his office to become even more angular. She zeroed in on us, boss. We're this mission's originator. Are you watching the Clio Sims? The agent says, awed. She's not even awake yet. The director turns instead to watch Terrence's mission. The agent powers off the collars of a new battalion of Pumas in Chiron. The Emperor's terrified centurions standing fast. Certain. What do you want? The voice says, and the Illic jumps, seeing the Imogen. We can work together. Unseating me upsets the perfect balance I created, she continues in a firmly gentle tone. Hell worlds belong in their own timelines, fueling the lasting worlds that seek me, but you're causing them to spill and spread everywhere. I am in every living thing, certain the destruction you're causing is against me. I will stop it. I will not allow disorder to exist everywhere. I will destroy everything if I have to in order to make sure it's not the new constant everywhere. The Imogen fades, and Sura shouts, I want you moving now, Abernus. She didn't just zero in, she found us. The odds were better than they had been before, but the agent still stalled, terrified of the creature. Their dead incarnations helped Griffin and Trey solidify their plan. Cleo projected that after the creature's last big push, there was less than 30% chance of waking her. There still was a chance, the squirrel reminded him as they entered the Phoenix Club, where 5 new doors to the Imogen's rift had appeared. Their appearance indicated that the Imogen will arrive inevitably, as she was Null Sub 1's only inhabitant. If they were lazier, they could just wait for her to show up. The Academy taught that getting people to cooperate against death was about finding an enemy. Certain watches the situation on Kyrome in horror as the Emperor's forces, armed with spears and chariots, take down the Puma warriors trained in advanced laser weapons. It dawns on the Illic parasite that the uprising wasn't a coincidence. There were no accidents in a multiverse so meticulously planned. She was behind it. Was it intentional or reactive? The idea sent a shiver down his spine. How much of what he was doing was actually a part of her plan? Part 13. The End of the Beginning. Certain fumed at the Imogen's audacity. She wanted to warn him about creating an imbalance, when she was ignoring the fact that she'd been the one who had cursed him with immortality. Terrence, go to your dingo and really put some pressure on him. The Emperor is going to find your world and will destroy you all if you don't send significant reinforcements. Something standard like that is fine. You need to put this little man in his place. Enough is enough. Finish it already. It was fun, but I'm tired of dealing with him. He thought seriously about using the Ferb tech on the Emperor to watch it spread across the world in real time. Make all of Kyrome answerable to him, a world mined for his amusement. He sighed. It was a back-pocket idea, he reasoned finally. He had enough to do with the short time he had. He didn't need to run an entire planet. Better to monitor QB1 for a few more weeks. Seeing the end within his grasp, the director signed off a mission to send a final, well-armed Carnian platoon against the Emperor. Its official reason was containment, but really it was because he wanted some entertainment as he watched the multiverse get crushed. His endless string of deaths would finally bring about complete nothingness. So Kui put up the nagging question of, if I made this, what makes me into every sentient being? She intended the question to take them on a journey, and that journey inevitably led back to her. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're all the way asleep. But if you're not, you can like, comment, share this video. It would definitely help out. Or you can go over to patreon.com/wigwags and support the continuing making of the story. Either way, I really appreciate you tuning in, and hope you sleep well.